My dad got diagnosed with glioblastoma. He passed away after 2.5 months. And so it was a bit of a like intense shock, I guess. And I think from the beginning of day one, we were like, we have no idea what's going on, but we're going to take this one day or 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. Because honestly, sometimes just a second is all that you can handle. Any way I can give back, like I can help out with the community, I think is also maybe not distracting from my grief, but also like letting me do something with it, not just sitting in it. Grief has beautiful moments and beautiful needs, but I have found whenever I sit in it, it doesn't work the best for me. This does suck. This is really hard, but being able to know that you have these people that know exactly what you're going through or can relate at some level, I think is beautiful.
Welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Every day, 562 children lose a parent to terminal illness. They shouldn't have to face that alone. You can pretend to avoid the painful realities of illness, grief, and death, or you can deal with the real stuff in caring community. On the podcast, people in Inheritance of Hope's community share raw, personal stories of pain, trials, and the shadow of death, which are also stories of joy in terminal illness. Find more Inheritance of Hope community at inheritanceofhope.org. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Inheritance of Hope podcast. My name is Ellie, and I will be your host today. We are going to have a good conversation today, and I'm excited to hear more. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ashley Mason. I'm living right now in Greenville, South Carolina. Last year, I finished my master's program, so in international business. So I've been a little bit in the job search since then, but I've been working as a facilitator for Inheritance of Hope for the teens group and the young adult groups. But I'm very excited to be here today.
Love that. I did not know you had your master's. That's exciting and a huge deal.
Yes. Yeah, it was the past 3 years have been quite intense, but yeah, it was a double master's degree. So one master's at University of South Carolina and one master's abroad. So yes, it's been a bit of a whirlwind these past few years.
Yeah. Did you study abroad at all during your time?
I was in Italy for a year, August 2023 to August 2024. And so then I got back and took a bit of a break and now I've been looking for jobs.
Yeah, that's incredible. And honestly, I love when people study abroad. I studied abroad as well. And it's such amazing experience. It forms you so much. Yeah. And then coming back, you almost get that reverse culture shock. And you don't realize like how ingrained you were in the other culture until you're back and you're like, oh my gosh, we do that in America.
Yes,
That's crazy.
yeah, I miss being able to walk out of my door and just walk. Like I live in a very much suburban neighborhood in Greenville, so I have to drive, which is fine, but it's completely different mindset. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They do have some amazing things over in Europe that I wish we could like integrate the cultures a little bit better of like, yeah, why don't we have more streets where you just like sit out on a cute little table and have a little coffee for an hour in the afternoon or whatever. Oh, good. Well, I know you mentioned you're a facilitator, and I'm sure we'll kind of unpack a lot of your story and that specifically I want to hear more about. But why don't you start us off by telling how you first got connected to Inheritance of Hope?
Well, so in August of 2022, my dad got diagnosed with glioblastoma. August 3rd, I believe. It's called butterfly glioblastoma, so it's a bit more, like glioblastoma in general is quite intense, but this is a bit more compact. He passed away after 2.5 months, and so he passed away October 22nd of 2022, and so it was a bit of a intense shock, I guess, and I think it was after he had passed, I was really trying to search for a young adult community that had also lost parents, because I was the first out of all my friends to have lost a parent. And especially I was 22 when he passed. And so I was just like, who do I speak to? Where do I go? And I've been looking through a few glioblastoma specific websites or web pages. And I found under one of them a resource for grief support through Inheritance of Hope. And so then I was like, okay, what is this? Let me look at it. And so I joined, and Rusty was the one that he was leading that at the time. And it was a small group of people, but I really enjoyed it. And I found that about like 5-ish months after my dad had passed. So I think that was a perfect amount of time for me to be able to talk openly about it. And yeah, and I did all the calls with them up until I went to Italy. So I took a gap year. So I was supposed to go to Italy
Hmm.
um, August 15th of 2022. And obviously once I saw my dad in the hospital, we weren't sure what was going on. I immediately deferred. So it was great to have that support of Inheritance of Hope for that year prior to going abroad. And even with the time difference, I joined on a few calls at like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. when I after late night studying or out with friends. I was like, "Oh, I'm up. Might as well just stay up to say hi to my friends at Inheritance of Hope." So yeah, so that's kind of my introduction to Inheritance.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you still joined, even across the globe and with many hour time differences. Yeah, thank you for sharing that about your dad. And I'm so sorry that is such a sudden loss. I'm sure the grief period, the anticipatory grief was kind of streamlined or just very quick, where I know with some of the diagnoses that we have within the Inheritance of Hope family, there are some people in our groups who have had that diagnosis for 10 years. So the anticipatory grief from that compared to, your anticipatory grief of 2 months, that looks very different, but it's still grief nonetheless. So if you feel comfortable sharing, what was that experience like getting that diagnosis? And then, yeah, just kind of walk me through what that anticipatory grief was
Yes.
like for you.
My dad he went to the hospital on August 3rd, and so I was in Lynchburg, Virginia at the time because I was doing an internship. It was coming down that day, and, I was supposed to come home August 5th, but because I was going abroad to Italy, I had already asked, like, way back in May if I could come home a little bit earlier, even though it's just 2 days to just spend more time with my family, and it was in that time it was just crazy how all the timing worked out, but as I was driving down, I remember I called my mom and I was like, "Okay, will you guys be like, I'll be home in like 4 hours." My mom was like, "Okay, we're shopping right now, but I think we'll be home by then, so I'll be okay." And then I was like, "I mean, that's 4 hours away. I feel like she'll be home by then." And I was looking up like her location and I had seen that they were at the hospital. And I just remembered I was like, "Okay, maybe something happened and she doesn't want to tell me." But all this whole thing in my mind had built up. And then it was like, I remember I was like crying. And then I called her later as I was driving and I was like, "Everything okay?" She's like, "Well, yes, I was going to tell you. I didn't know you were going to look at my location." Like, "Everything's okay. Your dad had a bit of a headache. We're in the hospital. Just come." And so I said, "Okay, okay. Everything's going to be okay. Just a headache." And it was honestly kind of like a weird miracle. Everything happened like with the timing. I mean, the same day I was going home that I had asked back in May. And the moment that my dad basically had just had a weird headache for like a few weeks, for like a week. He'd even told me that he wasn't sleeping that much like the week earlier. And I was like, "You should probably get that checked." And it was like from the moment that he was supposed to go to work that same day and he realized that that he was sleeping too much. And my mom was like, "No, that's it. We're going to the doctors." And my dad was like, "No, take me to the hospital." And so they went to the emergency room. And from the moment that he went in, he, like, wasn't fully like, it was almost like his brain was protecting him, so he wasn't ever fully there. So, like, it's honestly crazy
Hmm.
everything happened. I'm sharing this story 'cause it's important, I think, also to, like, my anticipatory grief because we never got to share the grief with him. So, like, he was never fully aware of what
Hmm.
was happening, which is almost like a beautiful I think in a way it's a beautiful miracle, but, like, from the moment that he walked to the hospital and, like, the moment I got there, he wasn't coherent of, like, what was happening, and all that we were told was, like, they found a mass, they don't know what it was, and so then they took us they took us from the small hospital we were at, which was, like, 8 minutes away from my house, to a larger one that's 30 minutes away, and from the moment we were there, they were just running tests, and I remember that night, my dad was like 'cause they had just come home from visiting my uncles in North Carolina, and they were like, So my dad, I think he had it in his head. So he was like, "Come on, Ashley, we have to go to the beach. We have to go." I'm like, "No, Dad, we have to stay here." And it was kind of like playing
Mm.
like a game kind of thing because he didn't fully understand. I think there was only one moment after he had one surgery, I think it was a biopsy or something, that I think he kinda became a little bit aware, but the whole 2.5 months he wasn't aware. So that anticipatory grief was kinda like, and I'm an only child too, so it was just me and my mom that we were just like, "Okay, we're doing it." And I think from the beginning of day one, we were like, "We have no idea what's going on, but we're going to take this one day or 1 hour, 1 minute at a time, because honestly, sometimes just a second is all that you can handle."
Mm.
And yeah, the diagnosis didn't even come till 12 days later. Like, it was crazy, like, how long that took. And then it was like, we were in the hospital a lot. We were in that one hospital specifically. Um, the oncologist could not have been more perfect. I remember he was a very young doctor, and so we were like, "What is going on?" But it was just like, the waiting for what to happen. I think my mom and I also, like, even when he was put on hospice and he was in our house, I think we were just like, we're like, "We could do this forever." Like, even though, like, he wasn't,
Mm.
um he became immobile and, like, even through his final days, but, like, wasn't able to talk, but we were still, like, I think we were living, like, as if we could live on forever. So, like, don't eat sugar, so we were giving him all these, like, blueberries, we were giving all these blueberry juices, all these blueberry smoothies. So my mom's friend was making this amazing soup with turmeric and bone broth, like, all the stuff that could prolong his life, but then I think, like, it was until after he passed, we realized, like, we could have done that forever. But that wouldn't have been a life
Mm.
for him. He wasn't living at that point. So, I think that was like a realization that we had, but we gave him, like, I was very fortunate to have not gone to Italy, like, to have deferred, to have stayed with my mom and them the whole time. So that was a long story of sharing, but I think that's important to see, like, how I mean, everybody's story is so unique, but I think that all of that kinda led to the we looking a lot, like, weirder. I think it was just kinda like we were, like, in the moment. It kinda
Mm.
feels like a movie looking back at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably, like, your mind totally shifts in that moment where all other priorities are not even on the list anymore. And I don't know if you would describe it as, like, survivor mode, but you kinda get that tunnel vision of, like, "Yeah, we can make blueberry smoothies and bone broth and, sustain this for as long as possible," when obviously that's not the story that unfolded, but you're just so willing to do anything for the people you love, and I think yeah, grief has such a way of pinpointing what's important to us and kind of getting rid of anything else that we used to think is important, but you can see how much you can live without that stuff when you're in the midst of grief and you're just like soaking up all the time you can with your mom and your dad and just giving your dad what he needs. So that's, yeah, really beautiful. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like you would call it survivor mode if what you went through?
Yes, especially. I mean, there really wasn't anything else to do but just keep going, especially with I mean, it's just me and my mom, and our family really also fully went into survivor mode as well. All of my mom's siblings came to visit, my dad's siblings came to visit. They stayed with us, they helped a lot. It was kind of like also because he was fighting, but he couldn't fight for himself because he didn't know what was happening. So I feel like my mom and I kind of were like, we had to fight for ourselves. And like, as amazing as the doctors and nurses are, of course, there were a few nurses or we had some other little run-ins that we almost had to like advocate for my dad. And
Mhm.
that was a bit tricky at times, but it was kind of just like that was the life. Like, okay, we know, like my mom would say the night with him, then we would switch so she could take a shower. I'd be there with him all day. Like, we never left him alone. And that was something that also, like, all of the nurses and doctors were always like, you guys are always here. And we're like,
Mm.
well, yeah, because I mean, where else are we going to be? And it's funny, it's like looking back, like, there were a few days where, like, I had gone to visit friends back in where I went to college, was an hour and a half, and I almost felt kinda, like, weird, like, I felt like, "Oh, that was a time I missed out with my dad, but it's not because how did we know it was going to happen this fast? Like the diagnosis was 12 months, or prognosis, but the terminology, but that was 12 months and it was 2.5 months. So I feel like you kind of just had to do things. And it's funny, not to make it fully about faith, but like, so I grew up Catholic. We're still pretty much practicing, but it was like the power. I found myself like telling a lot of my close friends who I have a good community of friends from college that were all Catholic. I was like, just pray, just please pray, pray. What else are you gonna do? I mean, this was completely out of our hands, and like, yes, we were in survivor mode, but also we were at like survivor mode for what we could do for ourselves and to help like make my dad comfortable. But whatever was going to happen in his brain was going to happen, and there was no stopping that. So that was it was a little bit scary and kind of just like going in the blind. But I mean, I felt like we handled it to the best of our abilities. At least that's what people told us. They're like, you're so strong. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel strong. I'm just going.
Yeah, and honestly, it just sounds like both you, your mom, and your dad, like, did the best that you could with what you knew, what you had the resources for, and, like, that was sufficient. And so, yeah, I feel like thinking about, oh, should I have not gone visiting my friends? What if that gave you the resources you need to kind of be re-energized to kind of show up to your dad fully? And knowing, like, nothing is wasted is... I find a lot of comfort in that, and I don't know if that resonates or if that feels comforting to know as well. But yeah, thank you for sharing. And I feel like what a hard but good lesson that we all probably learn at some point in our lives, of like feeling so out of control that we know we can't ever, you couldn't change what was happening in your dad's brain. And knowing like that is outside of your control, but like trusting in the plan that God has for him and for you and for your mom, surrendering that control is a blessing in disguise, and so hard. Like, that's not easy to do, but I think there's a lot of benefits that come out of it.
Yeah.
I'm curious if this quote will feel like you have experienced this. I came across it and I've been referencing it all of the time. And so maybe think through this in the lens of both anticipatory grief and, after your dad had passed away. It's a quote from Sue Monk Kidd, and she said, "There's no pain on earth that doesn't crave a benevolent witness." And I feel like that's so true, whether it's like a kid who falls down and scrapes their knee. Like, that kid desires a benevolent witness to be like, oh, that hurt. Ouch. Even as something as simple as that. Or you losing your dad with a very short prognosis that was even shorter than anticipated. Like 12 months would have seemed too short, and you got less than that. Like, I'm curious if you had people who felt like benevolent witnesses to the pain that you were experiencing.
Yeah, I think I understand. But like people like being like, oh wow, that must have been like really tough kind of thing.
Yeah, and people who weren't just like handing you cliches of, oh, he's in a better place, or this happened for a reason, or things that like aren't actually helpful. If you had people who like actually really stepped into that pain with you and like made space for you to express those emotions that came up.
Yeah, I would say like all of my friends, I would say my friends especially, and my cousins a lot too. I have 2 cousins I'm closer with that they like live also very, very close to me. I mean, they were coming up all the time, or they would, and I can remember specifically too, one of my closest friends that when I told her what had happened, she was crying like immensely to me on the phone. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And they're like, no, how can you be okay? This is awful. And it was almost like, and then she was like, wait a second, you're comforting me. Ashley, I should be comforting you. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I think there was something that was beautiful. I think my friends were able to see that they kind of wanted to take on the pain a little bit too, because they saw that I was like, I don't know if the words is at peace with it, but I think that I was just like, there's nothing to like, we're just going to live what's happening. And like, I have this immense grief inside of me right now, but also like, I mean, yes, do I wanna just cry all the time? Yeah, and of course there were days where I would probably cry, and I still cry a lot. Anyway, I'm very emotional. I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, I cry all the time. But I think that it was funny how people wanted to they were like, This is so hard, like, of course we're here for you," and but also, like, I'm a young girl, and so all my friends, some of them, they would be venting to me about I remember one time a friend of me was venting about her something with her boyfriend. She's like, "Oh, no, Ashley, you don't care about this, like, you're going through all this stuff." I'm like, "No, I need something normal, like,
Mm.
I need somebody to talk to me about the boy problems, somebody to talk to me about a friend that did something that was crazy, something that all my whole life right now is in a hospital. I don't need to talk about the hospital all the time." But then, of course, coming out of this with my dad, that's all I think in my head, all I wanted to do was I just wanted to tell everybody that my dad just passed away. Like, I think I wanted everyone to know because I wanted that to be the reasoning for why I may have been, like, the way I was
Mm.
but I think I then got to a point where I was like, not everybody has to know. Like, that's a very intimate part of my story and of my life, and I mean, it's my dad's life that it's not something that I just have to, like, share with everybody. So to have those close friends that were there that I could be able to lean on to, like, immediately when a moment of grief came up, I do have, like, about 3 people that I know that I can call and be like, "This sucks right now." I know that I just need to tell somebody, and then they were able to listen to it with me.
Yeah, that's so good. I feel like you described that tension of needing to be heard and seen and pursued in that pain, and also have some like time where you can come up for air and feel like a normal 22-year-old living, a life that feels somewhat normal. And so to have people in your life who could kind of bounce between either and kind of, I'm sure you experienced a whole fluctuation of emotions and like ever changing needs. And so people to kind of ride that roller coaster with you is like all you can ask. And it's just so powerful and moving when people can do that for you. And it also sounds like the Hope at Home groups were really meaningful for you too with the young adult group. Tell us a little bit about what it was like showing up to that 5 months after your dad died with other people who really got it.
Yeah, it was like a weird feeling because at first I was like, "Okay, what am I doing here?" And then you have to share your story, and of course, because as soon as somebody new comes into the group, like, where we all have to kinda share our stories, and I remember that, right now, the young adult group is also just me hosting it and one other girl, Macy, as well, which her mom had also passed away from glioblastoma. So it's kind of crazy to be able to have, like, that similarity, like, and be able to actually speak to somebody because I think there was a period when I was searching for groups, it was like, it only has to be with people who had glioblastoma because they're the only people who are gonna understand how I feel. But also, like I said, I mean, my whole story with glioblastoma is also quite kind of unique because I haven't heard of anybody else where their parent wasn't there. Like, I've heard of people,
Mhm.
like, sharing, like, my dad was able to talk to me about this or that, and, like, he wasn't. And that's I kind of view that my mom and I view that as, like, that was, like, his brain protecting himself from knowing the pain that it would be for him to leave us behind.
Mm.
But besides that, being able to be a part of the group, I think it was great because it was also normal to just ask all the random questions or the little day-to-day things that may have happened or little pop-ups of grief. I think it was good to be able to talk to the people who actually, like, fully understood what I was talking about.
Yeah, right. And not needing to give as much context as maybe you would have needed to for someone who didn't experience that or doesn't know what it's like.
Yes, yeah, and also for the people that were in that call too, we had all lost our parent around, like, early 20s, so I think it was also
Mm.
good to have that perspective because it is such, like, a weird changing time, and so it was good to be able to have those conversations as well with them because I have no idea what I'm doing in my life, and then this comes in, and so it's kind of like it was very good to have that support, and even, like, when I went abroad in the end, like, Rusty would always reach out to me through text, like, "Thinking about you." I knew I always had that connection to Inheritance of Hope, so when the time I got back to the US, I was like, "Okay, let me see what's going on with Inheritance of Hope. How can I find that community again?
Yeah, share with us how you're connected to Inheritance of Hope in this current season of life.
Yes. So when I got back from Italy, also I had no idea what I was doing, like coming back to the US, and I was like, okay, I had felt an immense that the grief in that whole entire year abroad was crazy because I felt like it was a completely different world, completely different time of my life.
Mm.
'Cause I was for 1 year in the US with my dad with that happening, and then I was abroad when the first year anniversary happened and my dad passing away, and so then that was a whole
Mm.
different thing, and then coming back to the US was also like, I mean, that was really hard getting. I was coming back home, had lived a completely different life in Italy, was back in the US, back in my home where my dad's not is no longer like present here physically. It was just like that a sense of grief really became very strong. And so I was kind of searching everywhere for any sort of like outlet or group again. And so I had reached out to the Heritage of Hope, but I hadn't seen um, that the young adult group had stopped. I remember I reached out to Rusty first thing. He was like, "Oh, it's not happening anymore, but hopefully sometime soon." I was like, "Okay." And around this time, Susie had just started. I think she was a few months in, and so then she was doing her calls to the people who had helped out or been a part of the groups at the time. And I remember she called me, and I was like so excited just to be able to speak to somebody again and hear hope. I said, "Yeah, I love the group. I'd also love to volunteer in any way. I'm not working right now. I just got
Mm.
back home. I mean, any way I can give back, like I can help out with the community, I think is also maybe not distracting from my grief, but also like letting me do something with it, not just sitting in it.
Mm.
Grief has beautiful moments and beautiful needs, but I have found whenever I sit in it doesn't work the best for me. So I was like, how can I not be in this not the slumps, but like a little bit like darker
Mhm.
place. And so she was like, "Oh, that's amazing. It's beautiful. Well, actually, we've been in need because the young adult group, we don't have a facilitator right now for this because Rusty had moved on to one of the other groups. Would you like to lead it?" And I was
Mm.
like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I was like, but okay, yes, if you need a need, yes, of course. And then she's like, okay, great, I'm gonna send you all the information, and that was that. And then I think
Mhm.
like 5 minutes later, she called me again. She was like, also, we need somebody for the teens group. Would you like to host that? And I was like, teens. I was like, okay. Yes. I mean, how can I say no to Susie? Also, how can you say no to that? And so I was like, okay. And so then began my time. So yes, it's been 10 months. I received my 10-month little note the other day, but I have been facilitating it. So but I host the teens group on Monday nights and the young adult group on Thursday night.
That's such a lovely way to put it of yes, like you say, grief is an incredible teacher. And also, sometimes it's good to channel that grief somewhere so that it's not just overwhelming and you're kind of sinking in it. And so to channel that grief, to give back and make sure that other people like you a few years ago are getting the support that they need walking through something. And you get to be that benevolent witness now. There's someone who understands and has their own experience and kind of knows what to say and not to say. Because I think people who haven't walked through grief say the wildest things.
Yeah.
Or even if they have walked through grief, it's like, how does that make sense that just came out of your mouth? How would that have been helpful to anyone? And so for you to be in these spots for teens and young adults with such wisdom and experience is probably so healing for so many people.
I try. I go into it. It's something. Of course, sometimes there's really tough things that are brought up, and especially with the teens. I think I was nervous. I was like, I mean, they've been dealing with having a parent all of their parents have had some sort of cancer at such a young age, and some had passed, some are still there. Some still have their parents with them in the group. I'm like I mean, I'm 25 now, so I'm almost 10 years older than some of them. And I lost my parent as a young adult. It's completely
Mhm.
different. I couldn't imagine being in their place. But then I feel like the stories we've been able to share, I still like we can still relate. They do have some really tough things that come up in their day-to-day lives, and just the community that they're able to have, especially with the teens. They really surprise you because some days we're talking all about books, and other days we talk about like crazy stuff that's happening in school or things that have happened to their like grief has brought up a lot or tough things that they've dealt with grief, and they're so open to talking about it. And then I'm able to bring those things I learned from there into the young adult group as well. So it's a completely different conversations that are had. There's such a openness and comfortability. That might not be a word, but such an openness that I think that the people before me was able to kind of create the basis of, and being that I've been in these groups for 10 months now, also like I can feel that they feel comfortable. So I'm just very thankful I'm able to kind of be not the reason why, but part of the reason why that there's a space in Heritage of Hope that's created that's been able to make them feel so heard, I guess, and seen.
Facing terminal illness is difficult enough, but you don't have to go through it alone. Whether you're at home, in a hospital bed, or on the road, join us. We are a community of people that get it. Find the connection, support, and hope you deserve. Because when you don't know where to turn, you can always find hope at home. So don't waste another second. Sign up today. Hope is waiting for you at inheritanceofhope.org.
Yeah. Yeah, without, you don't have to like name specific names or give details, but I'm wondering if there's a specific example of a really touching story of hope or healing or perspective that someone was able to find in either the teens group or the young adult group that you've been able to witness. Because I guess I want to like say this for our listeners too, like our Hope at Home groups are closed so that it's not just open to the public of like, oh, I'm going to like be, I don't know, it would feel like going to an aquarium and like the people experiencing grief would be like behind the glass. We don't want it to feel like a weird viewing experience. So like we really are protective of the groups so that they're safe spaces. And so I guess like in the story, you can provide like a peek behind the curtain while still maintaining like the dignity of those groups.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, most recently we had somebody enter the group, and this was my first time ever meeting them. And this was in the teens groups too, so I was a little bit like curious of how this is going to go. And they had mentioned that their parent had just passed away like super recently. And I'm always like, because this is something that's new to the group, and I'm very protective of the teens that have already been in the group. I was a little bit nervous to see like what would their reaction be to this, like being brought in first thing that's said, and because we do our rose thorn spaghettis around the room, and this was what was said, and of course the person was a bit distraught, and I was a little bit hesitant. I was like, how do I go along with this? How do I navigate this so that everyone is feeling comfortable and that this new person that's coming to the group feels. But it was really beautiful to see how, and I'm so proud of all of them, how they all were just like, they took the time for them to be heard. Just like 20 minutes into the conversation, I was like, where do we go from here? I don't want to just, we're not going to completely like ignore this and play a game. How could we? Half of the group has lost a parent, half the group hasn't. So we all know this feeling. And we kind of turned it into ways that we've dealt with grief, or ways that we, in our first few days or first few weeks, when our parent had passed, how those feelings are. And I think we were just like, take your time. And one of the girls, she was saying like, journaling is all that she does. And she was sharing with us all of her books that she's read. And then everyone else decided to share in, whether they just want to type it in, because you don't feel comfortable talking, and that's fine. They would type it in. But ways that they have been able to navigate this exact same feeling that this new person was feeling coming into the group. So it was really beautiful to see that even with somebody new coming in and having all this immense emotions, how the group themselves is able to nurture and like actually be able to change the conversation without me having to be like, okay, kids, we're going to do this. No, like I think it was very beautiful to see that was done, and it's very proud to see that like we're able to have these tough conversations with everyone as well.
I love that. And it feels so sweet when you, as a facilitator, get to watch other people facilitating, because that's the beauty of our Hope at Home groups. They're peer led. They are not like certified grief counselors. We don't want that format. We want it to be, yeah, you come because you have experience to share, and it's a journey that you're walking through. Not that our facilitators have to be diagnosed parents or you've lost someone, but it just provides such a beautiful space where anybody can share and anyone can support anyone else. And it's just, I think that's a beautiful story that you just shared, especially for such young people to be able to show up and create that space for someone else.
Yes, yes. And especially those teens, they facilitate the groups like all the time. All the stories always lead to whatever's going on in their lives. Like we have the curriculum or like little guidelines to talk about, but I feel like most of the time it's they take the floor, and it's kind of just become, they know that they have this space to just talk and be friends. And when the moments of tough grief comes up, they'll mention it. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we do talk about it. And I think that that's the beauty of it, is that we're all dealing with this. It doesn't have to be the forefront of everything. It's like I think somebody told me this early on in my grief, but it was like, we're all part of this club. Nobody asked to be here. Nobody wants to be here, but we are, but we're happy to have each other. And I think that's kind of something that I'm like, it's true. It's like, this does suck. This is really hard, but being able to know that you have these people that know exactly what you're going through or can relate at some level, I think is beautiful.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm just kind of struck by that story still, of the fact that a teen who just lost their parent, that's such a vulnerable position. And that's so devastating. I feel like anyone listening would agree. Like that is something that nobody would ever hope for or wish that anyone would have to go through. And the fact that our Hope at Home groups are a safe place for that person to show up and experience support and kindness from other people who understand that feeling and are giving tips, like as teenagers, that's so beautiful. And just knowing that those groups are safe and they're weekly and they're online, so they're really accessible, is just so touching. And I think just goes to show like the work that Inheritance of Hope does, the community that it creates, and the fact that all of these resources are free. Like our families never have to pay to receive any of these services. Like thanks to generous donors, we're able to offer those for free. So yeah, I guess if you have an answer to this, like for people who have donated to Inheritance of Hope, what impact has their generosity had on you personally or on the people that you're witnessing in these groups?
Well, I would say really just being able to build a community of like-minded people, and that they're all like comfortable to be able to speak to and have these experiences. Like some of them have gone on the trips before. Some of them have gone or have done those some of the other like remote retreats, stuff like that. They have all been able to experience those. And for the teens specifically, they've already talked to me that they cannot wait till the day they're, I don't know if it's 15 or 16, where they can volunteer at these. And just like feeling that excitement, like they're the ones saying it, not me, is all because of all of the amazing generosity that has come in to be able to build what Inheritance of Hope is today. And especially having these Hope at Home groups, I think have definitely been able to help keep continuing that fire, I guess, within them to be able to speak, but also want to give back at some point in person at some point. It's an amazing impact. And I mean, for me personally, it's the reason why, as a young adult, I feel like it's more you have to seek it out. You have to seek out these opportunities and these different groups, because as a child, yes, your parents are like, oh, there's this beautiful group with kids, come join it. But as a young adult, no one's telling me to go each week. And I think it was just the joy that I had in actually being able to relate to some people. And even though I've never met anybody in person, I know I can count on them or call them a friend. And even abroad and coming back and being able to actually continuing after now almost 3 years since my dad's passed. So it's been a beautiful journey that's all created thanks to all the amazing people.
562 children will lose a parent to terminal illness today. That's 562 families facing heartbreak, fear, and uncertainty. They shouldn't have to face it alone. At Inheritance of Hope, we help families find moments of joy, hope, and lasting memories, even in the midst of terminal illness. This Thanks Plus Giving season, your gift does more than just bring comfort. It's matched dollar for dollar, doubling your impact. Together, we can make sure no child walks this journey without support. Give joy in terminal illness. Visit inheritanceofhope.org to make your matched gift now.
Yeah, and the fact that all these people are just like itching to serve and like just so ready, that feels like what you were talking about earlier, like channeling the grief and giving back. I feel like that just gives so much purpose and beauty when you have experienced something so touching as, like some of the Inheritance of Hope services. And then you're so compelled and so excited until like they hit the age where you can become a volunteer on retreats or in groups or legacy video coaches or any of these roles. It's just so sweet. And I think is such a marker of success. I feel like I say this in a lot of episodes, but a lot of people point that out on when I'm interviewing people of like, it's so amazing to see how excited people are to serve after they've been served. And that is just, it's so revealing of like, okay, Inheritance of Hope is doing something right if everyone is like craving to jump back in as soon as they can to make sure other people experience this. Well, we end every episode with the same question. So I would love to hear whose legacy has been so impactful to you that you kind of carry their legacy on with you in your life.
Well, I mean, I guess I would say my dad. Just like, even like just knowing everything that he's gone through, all of his crazy life experiences, I feel like I carry it like with me, even subconsciously. Like some days I'm like, wow, this is really tough. And then I just think about him. He showed my love for classic rock and music. And I definitely like still have that to this day in concerts. I mean, that was all that we did growing up. And so I think I love being able to share and talk about him because like he was my dad and I was very fortunate to have the 22 years I had with him, and just being able to take into that each day is really beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love what did you say, classic rock?
Yes, yeah. We went to concerts all the time and it was all rock music. Yeah, that was his thing. So that's pretty much mainly all that I listen to today. Whether it's growing up, I was like, can we please change the channel? But now it's like, it has a different meaning and I actually do enjoy it. So yeah.
And each song probably carries the memory of your dad and the times you had together at the concerts or every time you were begging to change the channel.
Oh, of course. Even some songs that are like so like very like, I don't know, rock, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I start crying at and then I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, it's fine. This just reminds me of my dad, but we're fine. Yeah. And then it's like, isn't the beauty of the tears through you'll see me at a concert crying, but it's fine.
Oh, well, I think that just speaks volumes to the man that your dad was, and the impact of his life obviously still continues on and outlives him because you think of him often, and those songs are so valuable to you, and just seems like such a beautiful person. And I'm so glad that you kind of carry on his legacy. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for your time today and the impact stories you shared. I feel like those are just so stunning, and I'm really excited for people to listen to them and hopefully feel really moved by them, and just applaud you for you channeling your grief to help other people work through their grief. I think that's so beautiful. So thank you.
No, thank you. I had so much fun being able to speak to you.
Cradle of the roar of the crowd. leading them through. When the valley feels dark, he carries them too. Through grace and love, they found their climb, guided by his hand, one day at a time. They take it one